Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. A huge shout out, as always, to the God of War and Uncharted channel members. And if you enjoyed today's content, please show your support by hitting that like button. So let's take a moment and rewind back to early 2015 when the Order 1886 was released exclusively for the PlayStation 4. Back when this game came out, it generated a lot of interest and it looked absolutely stunning for its time, and to be fair, it still does, with its cinematic visuals and a detailed world set in an alternate version of Victorian London. The setting was rich, mysterious and full of potential. In fact, I absolutely love this game, having played it quite recently. Players stepped into the shoes of Sir Galahad, a knight battling supernatural threats alongside a secretive group known as the Order. The game was developed by Ready at Dawn, a studio with a solid reputation, and expectations were really high. But once it launched, the reception was quite mixed. The graphics, whilst they were praised, the gameplay left players feeling underwhelmed. The main complaints were the game was quite short in length and lacked a lot of interactivity. It felt more like a movie than a fully fledged game. Those were the kind of comments that were coming out from those people that have played the game, and that there wasn't much replay value, and for some it didn't live up to the hype. But here's where things get a little bit interesting and frustrating too for fans. The Order 1886 was never supposed to be a standalone experience. According to the game's creative director, Wolverine, this was just the beginning of a much larger story. A full trilogy had been mapped out for the Order. After wrapping up the first game, Wolverine wrote a 10-page pitch for the sequel, The Order 1891, which was planned to feature bigger combat set pieces, improved gameplay and even a multiplayer component. The third title, The Order 1899, would have continued to push the timeline forward, diving deeper into the world and expanding it even further. Early development on the sequel had actually started. The ideas were there, the creative momentum was building, and the team had bold ambitions. They wanted to fix what didn't work in the original game and build something far more engaging for players with the sequel, but none of those plans ever came to life. So what went wrong with the Order? According to both Wolverine and Andrea Pessino, one of the co-founders of Ready at Dawn, it came down to the game reviews. That's what destroyed the Order getting a sequel. While the game did okay commercially, it wasn't a financial failure, let's put it that way. The critical reception didn't meet Sony's high expectations. The average Metacritic score was 63, with user reviews hovering slightly higher at 6.8. That was enough to raise concerns with Sony, which ultimately decided not to move forward with the sequel. In a later interview, Pessino explained that if the game had scored even slightly better, somewhere in the 70s, they would have gotten the green light from Sony for the next chapter. Apparently, internal testing at Sony had shown a much stronger feedback than what reviewers reported, but by then it was too late. Adding to the disappointment, the development team faced tight deadlines. The game launched in February 2015, and that release date was set in stone. There was no flexibility with that release date. Because of that, a lot of content had to be cut from the game, including deeper narrative elements and more interactive gameplay sequences. According to Wolverine, parts of the story that were meant to unfold through player actions were stripped down, turning them into passive cutscenes, and it hurt the final product more than anyone expected. After the trilogy plans were shelved, Ready at Dawn changed directions to making virtual reality games and eventually got acquired by Oculus Studios, owned by Meta. For a while, they continued creating VR experiences, but in August 2024, the studio was shut down due to budget issues. That effectively closed a chapter on the Order series for good, at least from its original creators. Interestingly, the main character, Sir Galahad, didn't completely vanish. He made a small, brief return as a collectible special bot in a post-launch update to Astrobot, a fun little nod for fans of the game. Looking back, it's clear that the Order 1886 had a ton of potential. Like I said, I had a great time playing this game. Yes, okay, could have been a lot longer and better developed, let's put it that way, but I had a good time. It was great. The atmosphere was unique and the story definitely had room to grow, and with more time, a longer campaign and improved gameplay mechanics, sequels might have turned the whole franchise around. Instead, we're left with a glimpse of what might have been a franchise that could have evolved into something special had it been given the chance to fully evolve. So while the Order 1886 might not have lived up to all of its promise, it still stands as an example of how ambitious ideas can sometimes fall short, not because of a lack of vision, but because of timing, expectations, and the realities of game publishing. Would you have liked to see the Order 1891 and the Order 1899 come to life? Let me know in the comments, and let's move on to Marvel's Wolverine, one of the most anticipated PlayStation 5 exclusives currently in development. The game is being developed by Insomniac Games, the same team that brought us Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, I saw this snippet of information and I thought I'd share this. It was interesting. While news about the game has been pretty quiet since it was first announced. In fact, we haven't really heard anything from Insomniac Games about Wolverine, which, it's okay. It's not too bad. We know they'll share news once they have news to share. But development is still very much underway for Wolverine. And now Insomniac is inviting the next generation of game developers to be part of it, literally part of the development for Wolverine, through a summer internship program run by PlayStation. Students, that's right, students will have the opportunity and the chance to work directly on big projects like Marvel's Wolverine. In a recent announcement, Insomniac said that these interns will cut their claws on upcoming projects, including this highly anticipated game. It's an amazing opportunity. Imagine getting your start in the gaming industry at Sony PlayStation and working on one of the most hyped superhero games in development right now. Imagine adding that to your CV as an intern at PlayStation. You were part of the team that supported Wolverine. Incredible. As part of a broader push by Sony and Insomniac to invest in future talent and give students a real experience working in top tier studios, while we're still waiting for more gameplay or story details about Wolverine, this internship update reminds us that the game is still moving forward behind the scenes. It is still in active development, and Insomniac Games will show us more about the game once they're ready. Let's move right along to Ubisoft and The Division 2. The game originally launched back in 2019, and here's the thing, Ubisoft just will not let it die, and honestly, that's kind of impressive. They've just released a major new expansion called Battle for Brooklyn. This new update breathes fresh life into the game, introducing 2 new zones in the borough of Brooklyn, which has now been taken over by a dangerous group known as the Cleaners. Now, if you've played the series before, you'll know that the Cleaners are notorious for their scorched earth approach to law enforcement. Basically, flamethrowers first, don't ever ask questions second. In this expansion, players will be fighting to reclaim Brooklyn, and Ubisoft has gone all in with new gear, skills, and progression systems. They've even included a level 40 booster, so if you're a new or returning player, you can jump straight into the new content without grinding through the earlier campaign. It's wild to think that a game this old is still getting meaningful updates, but Ubisoft's long-term support strategy seems to be working. The Division 2 still has an active player base, and content like Battle for Brooklyn is only going to keep that momentum going. So if you've been on the fence about coming back to The Division 2, this might be a great time to jump back in. The DLC looks pretty decent and may just tempt me back into diving into this game to give it a try. What do you think? Are you tempted to dive into The Division 2 to play this DLC? Let me know your thoughts and let's move on. Let's briefly talk about Apple. This time they're making a serious move in the gaming industry. Well, that's if you're into mobile gaming. According to Bloomberg, Apple is preparing to launch a brand new gaming app very soon. Just a few days after the expected release of the Nintendo Switch 2, their goal is to strengthen Apple's place in the gaming industry. This new app will be pre-installed on Apple devices, and it's meant to replace the Game Center, which has been Apple's main social gaming platform since 2010. But let's be honest, the Game Center hasn't really evolved much over the years, and this new app aims to fix that with a unified achievement system, leaderboards, and better communication tools for players. That's not all. The app will also be integrated with Apple Arcade, which is Apple's subscription service that gives players access to curated collection of games. It'll also include editorial content, think about news, reviews, and features, all focused on gaming within the Apple ecosystem. And Apple's gaming ambitions don't stop there. This week, they just announced their first video game studio acquisition, a company called RAC7 or RAC7, the indie team behind the Apple Arcade hit Sneaky Sasquatch. The 2-person studio will now be working directly under Apple, continuing to develop games for the platform. Apple Arcade's senior director even mentioned that Sneaky Sasquatch has become a global hit, with kids even asking for themed birthday parties. That says a lot about how seriously Apple is taking this space and how much potential they see in becoming a bigger player in gaming. But here's the thing, right? I'm not much of a mobile gamer, which I suppose the main target audience for Apple right now with this app. And of course, people who use this app on other Apple products. And if you're someone who is always on the go, I can see why this may be appealing. But for me, as someone who traditionally games on a console in front of a large screen TV, I just don't think I'm personally the kind of person who's the target audience for this gaming app So really not for me. However, having said that, there are millions of gamers who love playing games on their mobile devices, and for you, this may just be the next best thing in gaming. And if that's the case, let me know your thoughts and comments down below, and let's move on. Let's talk about one of the most surprising success stories in recent gaming history. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This game didn't just quietly enter the marketplace, it made a serious splash right out the gate. On launch day, Expedition 33 sold 500,000 copies. That's already an impressive number for a brand new title, especially one coming from a relatively unknown studio. But things don't just stop there. Within just 3 days of release, the game crossed the 1 million sales mark. Barely a month later, just 33 days ironically enough, the game has hit 3.3 million units sold on both PC and console platforms. The studio behind the game proudly shared the news on social media, saying we couldn't make that up, and they're right about it. It's the kind of debut that most developers really dream about. It's even caught the attention of people outside of the gaming world, with none other than French President Emmanuel Macron congratulating the team behind it. That kind of recognition speaks volumes about what this game has achieved, not just in terms of sales, but as a cultural moment. But there's more to that 33-day sales figure than just a marketing coincidence. The number 33 is woven deep into the heart of Expedition 33's story. In the game, you play as part of the 33rd Expedition, a group tasked with stopping a powerful and mysterious figure known as the Paintress. Her goal is to wipe out humanity. And as players progress through the game, the number 33 keeps popping up in clever ways. For example, the maximum level for your weapon is also capped at 33. It's a smart bit of storytelling design that ties gameplay and narrative together in a way that feels purposeful and symbolic, giving players a sense of deeper meaning behind the mechanics. Critics and players alike have been praising the game for its distinct art style and rich atmosphere. One review even summed it up perfectly. Outstanding artwork and glorious combat brings Clair Obscur's bold, painterly world to life, and that's a key part of its appeal. The game doesn't just play well, it looks and feels like something completely different from most action RPGs on the market. The visual style draws inspiration from classical painting, creating a world that feels like a living, moving canvas. It's both beautiful and brutal at the same time, with intense battles that are grounded in a unique setting that feels fresh and original. Interestingly, the game's setting wasn't always what it is today. In early development, Expedition 33 was actually going to be set in a very specific version of Old London, but as development progressed, the creative team started to get creative, choosing to route the game away from London to a more authentic French setting. That change turned out to be a great move. It gave the game a strong cultural identity, and it helped stand out even more in a crowded market. Now, director Guillaume Brochet has spoken about the changes in interviews, highlighting how the setting plays a big role in the game's atmosphere and tone. He also hinted at the potential for the game to make its way to future platforms. And when asked about the possibility of a Switch 2 version, he responded that it could be interesting. So while there's nothing confirmed, there may be more room for growth in the game's future on another platform. So what's next for Expedition 33? Because with such a strong launch and a clearly defined vision, Expedition 33 has already laid the foundation for what could become a lasting franchise. The studio has proven it can deliver a high-quality experience that resonates with both critics and players. And with numbers like these, it's hard to imagine that they're not already thinking about what comes next, whether that's DLC, a sequel, or a port to new hardware. One thing is clear for sure, this game came out of nowhere, delivered something different, and it struck a chord with a global audience while staying true to a unique artistic vision. Would you want Clair Obscur Expedition 34? Do you think the game will win Game of the Year this year? That's another question I'd like to ask you. Quite a lot of people have commented on recent channel polls saying that it's going to be between Expedition 33, Ghost of Yotai, and possibly Kingdom Come Deliverance. What do you think? Has this game got a chance to win it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments about the content discussed today, and I'll catch you on the next video.